90 years old and doing amazingly well. It is our high honor as doctors to regularly meet people in this category. And it's always very striking when we see someone 90 years old or older who looks amazing, 20 or 25 years younger. And that is our wish for anybody watching, that you have maximum longevity and you're doing fantastically well. But we want to talk in this particular show about the common features, because there are very common themes when we meet these amazing people. And for anybody who enjoys our discussions, please check in the links down below. Make sure you have subscribed to this channel for more exclusive health tips on your journey. We want the very best for you. So let's dive right into this topic then. Dr. Peter, you want to start us off?
Thanks, Neil. I think this is such an important topic. In all the years of my experience, I know that seeing all my 90-year-olds who are really thriving and have that really great health span into their 90s, people get confused that they think that longevity is about intensity, but what it really is about is just doing simple things on repeat. And what I've noticed is decision fatigue is low. So people in their 90s that I've seen as patients have the same meal, same routine workout every day. And it's about consistency really over intensity. So they're not marathon runners. They just exercise regularly. They eat balanced foods daily, no health swings, no crash diets. And it is these daily habits that they do. And it's not, longevity necessarily isn't about the good days or the best days you've had. It's about how many bad days you stacked over the years. Does that make sense? So what we really want to make sure of, and what I've really seen is that, again, a lot of people go through a lot of these health fads where you'll crash and you do all these diets to lose weight, your weight fluctuates, you do intense exercise, you drop off. But in reality, it's just the consistency is so important.
That's a really, really good point. Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I'm sure you have as well. And it gets to a bigger point here. Boring equals better, if I can put it that way. Like often it's people who show up doing the same things every day. They are in a routine. There's no dramatic swings back and forth. Consistency beats everything, no extremes. I mean, you've seen that as well, Dr. Ben, haven't you?
We have to make these decisions every day. So I really like the point you're making, Peter. It's every day you need to think, am I making the right choices? Am I doing the right thing? Did I exercise today? Am I going to do it tomorrow? So it's tough because it's a constant struggle. But once you get in the routines and you keep them going, it just becomes a part of your life. And yes, it's kind of boring. It's like brushing your teeth in some ways. It's something you have to continue to do. But if you get in that habit and you keep the kind of consistent routines, they do truly pay off over time.
Yeah. And I'm so glad we're talking about habits, because those of you who are watching, we know many of you are wise to the ways of the world. I mean, this is the basic fundamental. Being a successful human being in any realm is having that personal discipline and habits, which are good. And the toxic thing about modern mainstream culture, and this is reflected everywhere, it's reflected in the mainstream media, it is reflected in all the messages you're getting, even from the medical profession, sadly. It's like people are being dragged into helplessness. And that's something that these 90-year-olds definitely aren't. Oh, you're helpless. You're not in control of anything. Don't blame yourself. If you can't, control your portions, that's not your fault. I mean, this is why we are seeing the catastrophe that we're seeing now, when absolutely the science of neuroplasticity dictates that the brain neurons can rewire. So if you're watching and maybe you're not in the habit yet of exercise, not in the habit of reading ingredient labels, this is something that can just be normal for you. You just practice it every single day. The science shows for about 2 months, and it will become normal for you too. Anybody can do this, but this runs contrary. In fact, this very way of thinking is almost kryptonite for modern day culture, because the entire system around us is set up to make people think that they're not in control, that you have to get older, weaker, be on meds, get sucked into the medical industrial complex. You absolutely do not.
So true. It's also about just really consistency and maintaining your baseline. And what I've realized with older people is that they're not really trying to optimize the peak. It's just that they're trying to keep their baseline, how strong it already has. And so walking after dinner, even when you're tired.
Great habit.
Portion control, or increasing protein. Eating when maybe you're not hungry, in a sense, to prevent frailty or sarcopenia or loss of muscle. And so it's really about the consistent daily habits that I've seen that these people have really developed, which is actually just really inspiring.
Yeah, it is. All right. Thank you for that. That's a great one there. Consistency, doing the same thing, habits. Dr. Ben, you want to go next?
Strength training. So this is something that I have seen. If somebody is doing very well after the age of 90, they almost always have some kind of resistance strength routine. It is very rarely extremely aggressive. As Peter said, it's almost always something they've done for a very long time, something that's very sustainable, and it's something that is enough weight to keep your body doing resistance, to keep your bones strong, to build your muscles, but not enough that these people are going to get hurt. So they have figured something out they do consistently that allows them to maintain the muscle mass that they need for a prolonged period. And as Dr. Peter said many different times, the muscles are an organ and they're very important. And if you maintain them and you work on them, they will give you all kinds of benefits outside of just the strength as well. They give you all kinds of extra benefits as well.
It's so true. It's about moving in microdoses, and it's not necessarily about workouts. It's about sort of this non-exercise activity. And so standing regularly, walking regularly, and really it's just about consistency in doing these and maintaining lean muscle mass.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because it's an area where many people do fall short. But I've noticed that as well, even with light dumbbells, body weight exercises, maintaining muscle, we're talking about something which is very doable for most people, even exercise resistance bands, but keeping up on this strength training. There's also a link between maintaining some muscle mass and tone and cognitive boost there. You've seen that research as well, yeah?
No question. You can actually see that in real time too, in practice. You'll see people that are exercising more regularly. There is definitely a lower chance of getting cognitive decline, dementia. There are a lot of things that can increase the risk of dementia, sedentary lifestyle, bad food, but we do know that being physically active is a huge factor that you can modify that'll decrease your risk of that as well.
Yeah. And we've seen people, I mean, statistically, sarcopenia muscle loss starts at age 30 and it can decrease by a few percentage points a year. But then after 70, there's a dramatic decline if you're not putting effort in to maintain that. Use it or lose it. So if you don't have a strength training routine, please think about getting one. I have seen people who are basically in wheelchairs, terrible debilitation, and they're doing gentle exercise because they're so determined to maintain
That's
muscle
true.
mass. Yeah.
But you made a really good point about after the 30s and sarcopenia and losing muscle mass. So it's really not necessarily the decisions they're making later in life. It's the decades of decisions you make over time. And so really your health span improves with the decisions you make earlier in life.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. I will go next then. Number 3 on our list, enjoyment. Just an attitude of wanting to enjoy life. And I'm going to link it to a story that has been a recurrent theme. I hear it over and over again. And that is the amount of 90-year-olds that I have seen in the hospital, and they're amazing. They're on no medications, doing great. And I always ask people, I make it a point when I see people who look like they are very well for their age, I will say, well, what's your secret? And I cannot tell you the number of 90-somethings that I have heard say, oh, doc, I have a cocktail every night. Now, are we saying alcohol is good? Of course, we're not saying that. I mean, alcohol in excess can cause a lot of damage. We've all seen that. But social drinking, people who use it for enjoyment, relaxation, I've seen that so many hundreds of times by now. I mean, even the late great Queen of Great Britain was famous for that. She used to have a gin and tonic. I think it was with Dubonnet every day. That was her afternoon drink, relaxation. But it gets to a larger point of doing things which relax you, because we all know that stress, cortisol does immense damage to the body. So anything you can do to relax, doesn't have to be alcohol, obviously, but it gets to a broader point.
Well, just like less decision making, and if you're on a really good routine of daily habits, there's less stress in that. And I think you'll see that in people who run big corporations that sometimes wear the same clothes. There's less decision making. And if they're in a daily routine, that it just lowers baseline cortisol. If every day you're trying to figure out what to eat or what I should do for exercise or what I should do, if you don't have that daily routine, I think that adds stress to life. And I think you're right, is lowering stress, lowering cortisol equals longevity.
Yeah. And have you seen that as well in your world of cardiology? That although obviously as a doctor, you would never promote alcohol intake. It is an observation that there are people who do use it socially and seem to benefit. And the data from Southern Europe would back that up too.
Yeah, I have this great couple. They've been married 70 plus years, and they really say that what keeps them really anchored is they have tea time. So at 5 o'clock every day, they have a drink together, and that's their time where they talk and socially engage. And I think that's where probably the role of alcohol is. I mean, alcohol does have some antioxidant properties depending on your choice of alcohol, but really it's just about being socially anchored. And probably the stability of relationships that you build at that point in life is better than the number of relationships you have. And so it's really the alcohol component, I think, in socialization is so important.
That's right. And to clarify, you said anchored, not angered. I said anchored. Yeah, you said anchored. Yeah. We definitely don't want you to be socially angered. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
So, yeah, I mean, enjoyment, huge component to having a good life. One has to be a bit relaxed. Crazy things are always happening in the world. And Dr. Ben here, he's good at relaxation.
I think so. Absolutely. Well, it's the mind-body connection, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about positive thinking and the power of it. If you are doing things that help you enjoy your life, if you're in a state of well-being most of the time, if you have a positive outlook or you're able to really work on that. And that doesn't always just come naturally. You don't always just wake up and say, wow, I feel great about everything, but you work toward that. And you actively say, I'm going to work on having a positive outlook. You could just take an example of driving in traffic, right? You can be one of two people in traffic. One, you can freak out like half the people on the road and get angry and try to cut everyone off. Or you can just move out of the way when someone's tailgating you and let it go. You don't know them. They don't know you. There's nothing you can do about it. And you let it pass. And so it's about finding things in life that you enjoy. It's about trying to be positive about things. And that does seem to have a positive correlation with living longer, being healthier when you do it.
A lot of times, just not letting those things spiral into catastrophes. And that really lowers adrenergic tone or cortisol levels as well. And again, a lot of these people, when I go into a room and see a patient and say, well, how are you doing so well? It's not like they usually they have a list and I've done this. It's what we've learned from seeing these patients over and over again. And really, one thing that always stuck with me is a lot of things they worried about in life never really happened.
Yeah, that's so true. Oh, there's many famous quotes about that. I think one from Thomas Jefferson that I remember that really stuck with me about how much pain all of those things that never happened have caused us.
Right.
And I think it's so true. And I'm sure all of you have seen good times come, you've seen bad times come and go. But I've seen a lot of people who hold on to a part of their life which brings them enjoyment. And we would really encourage that for you. As always, feel free to comment down below what your habits are, share them. But I have seen people who have been through really tough times. They've had bad things happen to them in life. Many of them have bad memories of wars, of lots of bad things happening. But they will hold on to that time of enjoyment and say, I do this every day. I go and socialize here. I play cards. I play bingo. I go, have a cocktail with a friend. I go for a walk in nature, whatever it is. But that's the part of their day that decreases cortisol. And I don't think it's any accident that they cite that in living a long, healthy life, because they know that every day that's a part of the day that helps them. So, Dr. Ben, you want to go next, or have we got the question next?
I think next we have to do the question.
Yeah.
So we do have a question, and it's from Verna. Verna, we thank you very much for this question. I didn't pronounce your full name, but we know you as Verna. And you wrote, is organic pomegranate juice good for you? That is such a good question, and we do have a few thoughts on it. First of all, the short answer is we believe it is. Dr. Sunil, how do you feel?
Yes, I believe it. And as with anything, like we've already touched on, everything in moderation. Some people will say pomegranate juice isn't the best. Others will say orange juice is bad. It's got sugar in it. There's very few natural things out there which are inherently bad. Like we could say Coca-Cola isn't the best choice, but pomegranate juice, there's a lot of evidence that there are antioxidants in there. The glycemic index, in terms of looking at how much it will increase your blood glucose, is not terrible. It's classed as moderate. And I have read, however, that there's some potential interactions with medications. So especially if you're going to consume more than a mild amount, be careful. Isn't there a link with statins?
Yes, in the same way that grapefruit works, it can inhibit a liver enzyme that's needed for processing statins. Now, you know our feelings on statins anyway. So if you had to choose, I would choose pomegranate juice. I think that's a much better choice for you. Yes, it has antioxidant properties. It has something called polyphenols, which are great antioxidants. And it can, I would classify it as far as juices go, it's a pretty good one.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to interrupt that awesome discussion for a moment. This is the really boring part where I tell you all about our expanding natural health and well-being store. So I will cut right to the chase. Check in the links down below. ohighwellness.com if you're in the USA, North America. ohighwellness.co if you're in the UK, Europe. As somebody who has taken natural supplements for my whole life, it has been a pleasure to work with a great team, formulating unique products, covering basically every body system, ranging from immune support, bone support, memory support, heart support, sleep support. We also have an expanding range of food and beverage products. Check out our protein thin snack, and we are expanding on our wellness teas. We've especially had some awesome reviews for our organic chai mix. All those links down below. Okay, back to the discussion.
The polyphenols we know reduce inflammation, which is a strong link to heart disease, high blood pressure, stroke. You always have to be careful with a lot of these juices as how much you take because juices do have sugar in them. And so I think that more doesn't always mean better. I think moderation is a key, which you mentioned, Sunil. I do think that the interaction with medications, that's always a debate with grapefruit juice. Is it a glass or do you have to drink a whole quart? And so that's something to discuss with your doctor about the safety of whatever medications you're taking. I don't think necessarily pomegranate juice would be a replacement for some of the medications, but it's definitely a good adjunct into just maintaining that healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. And I think part of the problem is these debates, especially in the United States. A few years ago, we wouldn't have even had these debates because people consumed a mild amount of these substances. But now, unfortunately, we live in a culture of excess, which is the opposite of what we've been talking about because the people who are 90 plus doing great have not lived a life of overconsumption. So we're talking about gallons of pomegranate juice. No, but a mild amount. Yeah, it's okay. What do you gentlemen think about the concern that if people are consuming juice, they're not getting the fiber? Do you agree that it's better to get it from the fruit, like an orange or apple, because then you get the fiber versus the juice?
I think definitely getting it from the natural source. It just makes sense to me as opposed to having a processed form that's mixed with a lot of other different things that you can get at the supermarket.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Dr. Ben, were you going to move on to the next? What is that on our list? So we're counting down, I suppose.
We are.
This could either be number 4 or number 2, whatever way you look at it.
We'll call it number 4. So thank you, Verna.
Yeah.
And number 4 is a sense of purpose. I find this to be extremely important as people get older. Now, that doesn't have to be a job. It can appear in so many different ways. The sense of purpose can just be finding a fun thing to do every day. Sometimes it's a person. Sometimes you are living to watch a person grow and help them. Sometimes it's because of an activity that you love, and that becomes the thing that you spend your time doing each day. I actually had a patient that was well into her 90s that still worked as a waitress, which I thought was the coolest thing. And she was still working as a waitress. The only reason she stopped is her arthritis got so bad. She was having trouble with it, and she ended up stopping. And she was devastated she couldn't do it anymore. She absolutely loved it. It was one of her favorite things to do. And it was just this feeling of purpose. And I think that becomes ever more important. And you don't have to go out aggressively and seek purpose. It's probably around you. There's probably something that does make you feel fulfilled, that you, as we talked about enjoyment, that you enjoy doing, that gives you that sense that you're making something good happen. And that's an important thing.
Well said. I think people really prepare financially for retirement, but really not mentally. And I've seen that time after time, people retire, and after the vacation phase is over, after a few months to a year, you do lose that sense of purpose. And that's such an important thing you just talked about, Ben. And whether it is through grandkids, working, you don't always have to work just to make money. It can be just an enjoyment, and social engagement is really important too. And so it's a really good topic.
It is. Yeah. Purpose is so important. I mean, even at a higher level, spiritual level, we know many of you watching have deep religious beliefs as well. I mean, purpose is everything, whether it's your religious faith, but even in many religious texts out there, there's a huge emphasis on you living for something, having a higher mission, and it can be whatever you want. Yeah. So, as you mentioned, it could be your grandchildren, it could be working on something else, charity. I do believe, and this is backed up by research, that this is so important to a meaningful life. You have something that you want to live for, keep going for, and that will often sustain people into into their 80s, 90s, and feeling energetic about it as well, because it's something you're passionate about, because that's a key component as well. I mean, you can you can feel strongly about things, but you also have to mix that with an actionable item as well. Are you doing something to actually help? Are you, for example, with your grandchildren, are you doing something for them? Are you guiding them? Are you doing something in the community?
One area that I've seen people really succeed is church activities, because the church is like a natural community that forms. And what you can do, there's always, if you have a local church you belong to, there's always activities that are associated with charitable events. And that can almost automatically come with a sense of purpose because these activities are almost always centered around helping people. And if you can have that feeling that you're helping someone else, that purpose is almost immediate. You will develop that. So that if you can't find or you're searching for a purpose, that can be a really good place to look.
Yeah, that's right. And one of my memories actually growing up, my mum taught at a convent school locally. I didn't go to the same school, but because of the connection, I ended up having tutoring as I was growing up from nuns. And I will never forget the experience because a lot of these nuns were in their 80s or 90s, but they were the most amazing people. Like I still remember the lessons learned, and I would hear stories about the things that they would do in the community. There was always something going on. And the group activities, phenomenal, really were. And even other people that I used to hear talking about it, even though I was a boy, I used to hear people just remarking how amazing these communities were, the things they would do, the work they would do. Many of them would go overseas as well. And it was all built around that convent.
The missionary work
Yeah.
was incredible. And I think that I feel like a lot of people are striving to an end. Like you're working, so you get to a point where you don't need to work anymore. And then, but you have to realize, what do you do after that? And I think that's what a good life and good health span is just finding a lot of purpose. And whether it's a missionary trip, socialization and purpose, it's not like you have to go out and keep meeting all these people. It's just about the daily interactions with people that you trust and you really enjoy being around.
Yeah. And I think this also gets to the issue of faith, which I'm sure many of you feel strongly about as well. The two are intrinsically intertwined, but we can leave that discussion for another time. Perhaps that's out of our realm, but faith and passion do go together. So I will go next. We can make this number 5 or number 1. I'm going to make it number 1 because I think this is so important. I have noticed that people over the age of 90 who are doing fantastically well, they have a sense of skepticism and an ability to laugh things off like, oh, we've seen this all before. But they do it not in an angry way, but in a way which is quite jovial and gentle and just understanding human nature. And they say, oh, they'll sort of roll their eyes because they'll often talk to me about world events, this is happening, that is happening. But they're not dragged into it. It's clear it's not really affecting them, but they're just kind of accepting that that's the way it is. I'm going to do my best.
Again, it's just not making something into a catastrophe and not
Yeah.
spiraling down and causing anxiety and not worrying about things that probably will never happen.
So true. And the other thing you'll see, which goes along with this, most 90-year-old plus that I see, they're very healthy and doing well. They're not on a lot of medications. And they're skeptical about medication. So if you talk to them and say, hey, you really should be on a blood pressure medication, that's going to be a real hard sell. It's going to be a real hard sell. And they won't be nasty about it, but no, we're not going to do that. So it's an appropriate skepticism. You've been around long enough that many people out there are trying to trick you. And many things out there are designed without your best interest in mind. And it's like you guys said, it's not getting nasty about it. It's not getting angry about it. It's just knowing when to move left instead of right. And so I think that's absolutely true. I think that's a great point.
It is. Yeah. I see it all the time. And many will have taken their health into their own hands. And we would never advocate for this, but frequently I'll talk to them and they'll say, oh, my doctor put me on this. I just stopped it. I don't want it. I'm not going to do it. I've been around for a long time. I don't think so. I'm skeptical. Again, course, as doctors, we can't advise anybody to do that. I'm merely saying that that's what I've seen a lot. These people usually are on hardly any medications. They're doing great and they just want to stay healthy, and they generally want to be left alone by doctors and the medical establishment, which I completely understand. Yeah, you've seen that too.
Oh,
You have
absolutely.
a few amazing 90-plus-year-olds in your practice.
Absolutely.
They probably love seeing you though, because you're
Well,
like different from other doctors.
yeah.
But yeah, it's
I mean,
amazing to see.
I have patients over 100, and I think that that is not because of me. I think that's probably good advertising for my practice. But no, I, I do think that the population in 90s is very great as a collaborative visit where I'm not going to push something at all on you if I think it's going to cause some harm in your age. I think the better way of looking at it is that more likely when you're younger and put on medications, you're told to take them. You almost want to ask permission of someone in their 90s. Like you just don't want to, you're doing so well. It doesn't mean you don't want to treat someone, but you also don't want to harm someone.
Exactly.
And I always approach someone in their 90s with great respect and really respecting what they want. Like you don't always need to have the perfect blood pressure in your 90s. If you want to have that ice cream, that is fine because you have proven that you just have a consistent and daily habits that have gotten to you where you are. And I think that it's just such a great population to see. It's fascinating. And actually, here we are, and here I am talking about all the things that I've learned. I would love to hear from people out there who are in their 90s watching this who may have some other things to add. We'd love to see in comments below. Or if you have parents that are well into their 90s and doing well, or have had parents out of their 90s, we'd love to see things that you've observed. I think that'd be really great to hear.
Exactly. All right. We hope you've enjoyed this. Let's have closing statements from each of us. Words of wisdom. I'll let my colleagues go first. Dr. Ben.
First of all, special thanks to Verna. Thank you for the question. Please don't hesitate to ask us questions. We'd like to incorporate one a week. Closing statements, keep doing everything you can every day to be as healthy as you can so that you age in a way where the deterioration is as slow as possible so that you can age in a healthy way. And that's strength, that's keeping your mind sharp, and it's being really careful with what the medical industrial complex wants you to do. Be very careful with guidelines you hear about. Be very careful with new medications that are suggested. Always do your homework and always be very careful because most people may not have your best interests at mind, but if you know what you're talking about and you've done your homework, you're much less likely to get into trouble.
Exactly.
That's great. Consistency over intensity. I've always been a big firm believer that it's just nothing intense. You don't need to be the marathoner runner. That's not necessarily going to get you into your 90s. You don't need to be lifting weights your whole life. It's just making good habits that you're consistent with it and you just do them daily.
Yeah, well said.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it is. I have a rule that when I ask somebody or anybody asks somebody who's 90 plus and looking great about what their secret is, you listen because they've been around for a long time and you take seriously what they say in terms of a habit which has got them that far. These people are amazing. They deserve our respect. We hope you've learned something from this because each one of us can do better. There is nobody who's perfect. I hear things every single day and I think, wow, I should be doing that too. And that is what it's all about, the small daily decisions that take you in the right direction. And ultimately, the goal is maximum health, well-being, improved longevity, living your best possible life. We all have a certain number of revolutions around the sun. That's it. So why not be as healthy as you can and be a shining example to everybody around you? And we wish the very best for you. We are cheering you on. We know that you know the system is not ideal and you have to take your health into your own hands and keep making those right decisions. Feel free to leave a comment down below. We appreciate you watching. Also check in the links down below for our natural health and well-being store, which we're very excited to be expanding, ohiwellness.com. If you're in the USA, North America, ohiwellness.co. If you're in the UK, Europe, also check out our ebooks, which contain information unique to specific conditions that you might not be getting elsewhere. All of that on our website. Do share this episode with anyone else who may enjoy it, and we will speak again next time.